Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Manifesting Money Podcast. I am super happy and grateful today. I have an amazing guest, Krystal Woods. Krystal, I already gave you an introduction, but I just want to reiterate some of the things that I see in your website that really, really resonated with me and I'm excited to talk about today. So Krystal Woods is a mother of two, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Yay. She's a host of the Under the Surface podcast, a human design educator and coach. And she had plans to become a mental health counselor, researcher, and professor in psychology. And that all shifted when she had her firstborn. And it's actually when you started your first awakening. And I just love this part of your story because I know there's so many listeners who are really going to resonate with that. And in her story, she was able to find herself and eventually evolved into in her journey of evolving and finding herself, helped her impact other beautiful souls and created a profitable business that allows her to help women do the same. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things human design. I'm really excited to talk about movement and meditation, psychology, and tapping is something that we haven't really covered in the podcast either. I'm really excited to talk about this. And last but not least, of understanding of how human design really helps with business and as well as following your intuition. So my first question for you, Krystal, is how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I wasn't expecting that to be the first question, but I am doing really well. I've had like some Mercury retrograde vibes already. It's like I don't even think we're in the shadow period, but today has been so just chaotic for me technologically and just like logistically that it's taken a lot of grace just getting through the day.
Right.
But we're good now. We're good.
Right. I always feel the same every time, especially when it comes to like even just this little setup that we just had. I feel like that is a sign that it's going to be a really good episode, even better than what we expected. So I'm excited to talk about this specifically because a lot of times things are happening in the universal wavelengths and we can all feel it. So I have just a couple rapid fire questions for you. And we're just going to have these so that we can not only warm you up, but warm our audience up to get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. So what is your morning routine?
Let my daughter wake me up.
Oh, my heart.
Yeah, I sleep in bed with her most of the time. You know, halfway through the night, I creep in there because she wakes up and then I get stuck. So yeah. And then what do? I have to get my son off to school and I drive him to school, which he goes to a school half hour away from our house. So we do magical morning. I don't know if do you do magical morning?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you follow Gala Darling?
No, but I'm a new listener.
You have to. Oh my God. She's manifesting queen too. So, so magical morning is you do 2 minutes where you talk about all the things you're grateful for. You just go on that like gratitude rampage, right? Until you're so full of gratitude that you could burst into tears with happiness. That's for 2 minutes. And then the next 2 minutes, you talk about your day as if it's already done. I had such a great day today. I did this, I did that. I accomplished this. I felt like this, whatever. And then the last 2 minutes, you talk about all your future desires as if they are already here, right? I'm so happy and grateful that I got my money stuff together and now I have a high yield savings account with X amount of dollars in it, like whatever it is. And so I do that out loud while the kids are in the car. It's just like a fun thing. And then I go to the gym and then I check in on my clients and I tap. And that's pretty much it. That's my entire morning every day.
Oh, I love it. Okay. I'm definitely
but you have to try magical morning.
Yes. We'll link it down in the show notes for everybody too, so that they can see what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I'm just so happy that I'm now conscious of this and the fact that you're doing this in front of your children. Oh, my heart makes me so happy, filled with joy. So my second rapid fire question for you is, what is your favorite book?
That is an impossible question to answer. I feel like I have no idea what my favorite book is. I don't know what my favorite book is. I couldn't begin to start, but I know that the book that I open most frequently in the last few years, at least, has been my human design book. I feel like I'm constantly opening it and discovering something new. But I've also been very into like mafia fiction lately, which
Wow.
is so not my thing. I don't know how it happened, but yeah, I've been reading a lot of those books lately. But yeah, favorite, I have no clue.
Oh, so good. Is there a specific name for the book?
Oh my God. An Underworld or something. I can't remember what this, it's like a series. Anyway, yeah, it's not, it's like kind of just easy reading.
I feel like somebody on here is gonna be like, "Oh, I'm reading that book," or they know that book right now. So if
Yeah.
that is you right now and you're listening, let us know. We'd love to know.
Mm-hmm.
So my third rapid fire question for you is, who was your first mentor?
My mom. Yeah, my mom for sure. I feel like she still is.
That's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And last rapid fire question is, what was the first time that you invested in yourself and how much was it?
I mean, I feel like I've always been investing in myself in one way or another, you know, buying yourself a nice outfit or, you know, in my late teens, early 20s, I was very into just, I mean, I'm a Taurus sun, so I love luxury and I love fashion and all of that. So I've always invested in that. I invested in my dream car in my 20s, my Jeep Wrangler, which I don't have anymore, sadly. But, and then once I started my business, the first investment that I made was in an Amanda Francis course. So yeah, I think I did Money Mentality Makeover and it was $2,000. And that
Wow.
was the first like bigger investment that I made that was business related. And yeah, it just went up from there.
Wow. Amanda Francis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are all new names to me. I'm like, oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
I know,
Yeah.
right? This is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So thank you for sharing. And I also just love your perspective on investing in yourself, right? Things that
Mm-hmm.
you want and desire. And I know we're going to dig really deep on this, but that was one of our favorite questions. So I kind of want to go back to your introduction. And again, talking about this perfect little plan that we had for our lives. And looking back at that, what was that plan? And was it originally your plan? Or do you think it was projected on you? And how did things shift when you realized it wasn't?
Wow. I don't feel like anyone ever asks me personal questions. It's always like human design related. So, yeah, okay. So my plan, so at the time I had graduated college. I went to school in Hawaii and I was like, you know what? I'm going to move back to Boston and I'm going to figure it out. Like I'm going to apply to grad school and I'm going to, you know, work and whatever. And so I did. I moved back to Boston and I was helping a friend open a restaurant. I was in the restaurant industry for like 10 years before this. And so I was doing that. And I just was like, this doesn't feel like home to me anymore. It just doesn't. Something's off. And I had kept in touch with a friend, a guy who I was kind of like seeing before I left Hawaii. We had kept in touch while I was in Boston. And he was like, I'm going to go visit friends in Seattle. And I was like, I want to go to Seattle. I've always wanted to go to Seattle. So I invited myself onto his trip. And I guess while we were there, I just realized I was in love with him. And it just felt like this very like karmic connection relationship. And I was like, I think I'm in love with you. And he's like, I know. So he's like, what do you want to do about it? Do you want me to move to Boston or do you want to move to Hawaii? And I was like, I'll move to Hawaii. And so I moved back to Hawaii. I moved in with him actually. And a month later, I got pregnant with my son. So it was like, it happened very, very quickly. And like, it definitely wasn't projected onto me. It just like, I don't know, I've always done what I want to do. Like Yes, I've always had people telling me what to do, but I've never done it.
Mm.
And so I never feel like I made moves based on people's expectations of me.
Mm.
However, I think I was just a little bit lost at that point. Like I was going to apply to grad school and I was going to keep working in restaurants. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm so tired of everything and nothing sounds good. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then I got pregnant and all of a sudden it felt like I had this purpose. Like my purpose is to become the best version of myself so that I can be a good model for my kid. Nothing was more important to me the moment I found out I was pregnant, even though it was like a total surprise. So yeah, I guess it was that. It was just like knowing that there was life inside of me and I could create life, and that like what a responsibility that was. It just totally shifted everything for me. So yeah, I had a plan, but I wasn't super stoked on the plan anyway. So the fact that the plan changed was just like a beautiful blessing, you know?
Oh, so good. There's a lot of things I want to break down because I know that there's listeners on here. Actually, a majority of our listeners are either single mothers or new mothers or mothers who are, their children have grown and now they're starting their relationship with themselves. And so one of the main things that really stuck with me is your experience in the restaurant industry. So same here. I love the restaurant industry. It's so fun, but again, it really is one of those things where it's like, is this forever or is this just temporary? So if there's anybody here who has lived in Boston, make sure you screenshot this and let Krystal know, as well as Hawaii is where you're from.
I'm originally from Massachusetts.
Okay.
I moved to Hawaii 10 years ago, and then we just moved back to Connecticut last year.
Oh, so good. Mm-hmm. So if you're from those areas, let us know. And then Seattle. Okay. The fact that you felt that urge to go to Seattle, I want to point that out because there's a lot of people who are listening to the podcast right now who feel called to go somewhere. They feel inspired. I really, want to know what it would like to be to live there. Maybe even places they've never even seen before. And I want to point this out in the story because look what happened when you followed those intuitive nudges. And then the karmic connection. Man, I got chills when I know we don't talk about manifesting love over here, but it's been in the vortex lately. And I just think that was so eye-opening just hearing you say that of what it felt like. And then last but not least is you prioritizing putting yourself first in your awareness and working on yourself. I want to point this out because again, a lot of people are going through the shift where they're now realizing why that's so important, especially when it comes to being a parent and setting the example. And a lot of times when people are in that situation is that they think, oh my gosh, how am I going to have enough money? How am I going to do this? And I just want to commend you for putting yourself first and really understanding that your beliefs and how you're wired is such a huge part of that process too. Responsibility.
Oh, I would argue that is more important than the other stuff because that's not what your kid is going to remember. And they're not going to do what you say. They're going to do what you do. So if you can hold faith and trust yourself and love yourself and prioritize yourself and prioritize being present, regardless of what's going on around you, regardless of what you have, regardless of what you do for work, any of that stuff. I feel like that is the most important because that's what translates to all of those other areas. You know what I mean? It's like you're raising these just like secure, confident humans who love themselves. And if you have that, that's really all you need to succeed in anything else, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's this huge misconception that we have of like, I want to give back to my parents and I want to buy my mom the house, which is amazing, right? But it's also really understanding that if you don't feel worthy of receiving. Where do you think we get that from? And then when you give your mom a house, and does she feel worthy of receiving? So it's kind of like, it was up the topic on our call today of like, I want to retire my mom. And it was something that I also want to do, but my mom doesn't want to stop working. So it's like all of these like vicious cycles of like, oh, wow. So this is really important to set the example. So I'm curious, once you were conscious that this was what you need to do, right? This is your new focus. What happened from there?
I mean, I guess a lot of learning, obviously, some synchronicities. And I mean, I guess it's all synchronous, but my mom, I was pregnant. I was bartending and like waiting tables pregnant. And I was like, I can't do this for much longer. And my mom had gotten involved in like a wellness MLM company. And she was like, you would be so good with this. Because I used to be a dancer and I've always been into fitness. And like I've always put moving my body like at the top of my priorities and eating well too. So she was like, you need to try this. It's like, it's basically you living your life and getting other people to join you. And I was like, okay. So I tried that out and, you know, I'm not doing it anymore. Obviously, I changed directions a lot since then, but I do think that that was a huge catalyst for me, like getting on this path, because I went from not being on social media literally at all, like being so closed off from that world, to stepping into like online business world and learning. I mean, I learned so much during that period, just getting my feet wet and learning a lot about these different aspects of business that if I had just gone straight to coaching or straight to psychologist, whatever, like I would have missed out on a lot of that stuff. So, and I wouldn't have known what to do with my skills. Like I wouldn't have known how to build a business. So I think like that was one of those synchronistic things that happened after I decided to like commit myself. It was like this little thing that fell into my lap that was like, here, you'll be rewarded for your habits. You'll be rewarded for the way that you live your life and the way you're prioritizing yourself. So yeah. And beyond that, I just remember like I meditated every day when I was pregnant and I walked every day and I threw out all of my makeup because I realized that my makeup was full of garbage. And it was like all these things. It just really, that period of, it was a huge transition in every way, but not just externally, like internally too, you know?
Oh, so good. I just love the synchronicity. So I started with network marketing too, right? And I loved how you talked about how even that transition from there, of when being conscious, I can't do this anymore. This is no longer serving me. And then boom, an opportunity presented itself. And then there was a shift in your identity and saying, okay, instead of being closed off to this, I'm now open and receptive to it and looking what manifested. Because I also know that there's people in that specific phase right now in their journey who are listening to this right now. And same for myself, is that the tools and the resources that you learned from those programs, they're exactly what I use today. And another part of your story is walking and meditating. And yeah, I got so excited when I heard you talking about this because, you know, there's such huge misconceptions of like, that these tools are what we need in order to live this most abundant lifestyle. Like, yes, they do help, but at the same time, it's like who you're being, right? Like you are the type of person who prioritizes those tools and resources because you know that you operating at the highest frequency is what's going to get you to the end result. So, so amazing. So when in this part of your story, how did you start to become conscious of human design and go down the amazing rabbit hole?
Yeah. So I had been doing the network marketing stuff for a couple of years and then realized that I was kind of done and realized that I could do something that was more aligned with me and all the skills I already had and all the knowledge I already had, you know, independent of just fitness. And so I decided to start my own business. And it was just, it all happened so quickly. All the pieces fell into place so fast. And then, like, right after that, I found human design. So my son was still I think maybe he was 2 or 3. And I remember he was napping in the car and I was listening to a manifestation podcast, and they had a guest on who was like a human design expert. And I didn't know, I had never heard of human design before that point. But as she was speaking, everything resonated so deeply with me that by the end of it, I was crying. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know. Like, it wasn't, I don't know. It was just like I had this reaction in my body to it. And I knew that the trajectory of what I was doing and who I was being was going to change again. And it did. And I ordered all the books and I started taking classes, and I just like was so focused on learning every single thing that I possibly could. And then that's really like how my business got off the ground. That's really how, that's when I knew that that was it. Like, all the other things were leading me up to that. And that's how I knew that that's what I was going to build my business around, because that's what I wanted to do every waking moment, you know? And I could see the impact that it was having on people around me, just even from the beginning when I started talking about it. And people were like, oh my God, that is me. Like, I could feel how like validated they felt. And like, I'm a Cancer rising. Like, I think I just loved like feeling that connection with people and just like seeing the impact that it had on their lives. And yeah, it's been a beautiful just journey ever since. That was like 3.5 years ago.
Ah, so good. So what if there's somebody who is now listening to this, who is, again, just now realizing about human design, and they're in the same shoes that you were in when you were listening, and the emotions are coming to the surface. We don't say being emotional in our community, we say expressing our emotions. So let's say their body is having that chemical reaction, like crying from hearing something that is just so impactful. Looking back, what would you tell yourself that is a sign of what, from you crying and hearing somebody else's story?
I think that I knew in that moment. Like, I think I knew. I don't know if that's when I had the vision, or if that's when I knew that that was the piece that was missing from the vision. But it was like, if you have always had visions of yourself, and I mean, I always have, and most of them have come true with insane accuracy. But I remember having visions of me speaking to women, and like just some of the situations that I find myself in, like this. You know, I had those visions, but I didn't know like what I was going to be talking about. Like, I didn't know what I was known for. I didn't know what that missing piece was. And it was like, when I found human design, I felt it. Like, this was it. It was like I had been looking for it without knowing I was looking for it. So I don't know that I would really tell myself anything. I'd be like, yeah, go girl, you're doing it. Like, you're everything that you're doing, everything you're thinking, everything you're saying is exactly right. You are exactly right. Go on with your bad self.
Go on with your bad self. So good. I love it. So now we're up to speed. So first off, thank you, Krystal, for sharing this part of your story and being vulnerable. Again, it's like one of our pillars is like vulnerability, because we can't help people if we don't know where they're at. And I think us sharing our stories, you know, people unconsciously start to put coaches or whatever on pedestals because we've invested this time and energy. And it's something that I pick and pulled from another podcast episode that you did, is that you're always learning. And I really appreciate having people like that on the podcast, because you're not only learning, but you're implementing. So I would love to know if we could just break down, for those of us who are super new to human design, what is like the basics of it and what are the different categories?
So human design is a really layered system. And it incorporates a lot of ancient wisdoms like the Chinese I Ching or Book of Changes, the Kabbalah Tree of Life, the Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and then Western astrology, which is most of the astrology that we hear about, on Instagram. And then it also takes into consideration a lot of modern sciences as well, like astronomy and biology. And yeah, so it combines all this stuff into this like beautiful system with all these different elements and layers to it. But when you put in your birth information, which is how you generate your human design chart, you put in your time and place of birth, and it gives you this graphic that has 9 shapes and all these lines and numbers and colors. And this is basically like your energetic blueprint. And it tells you like your sort of path of least resistance, like what unique energy do you bring to the table? And, this energy is representative of a lot of different behaviors. And that's where it gets really cool, because especially if you're someone like you or me, or probably a lot of people listening, you love to understand behavior. And you love to observe yourself, and you love to observe others and try to understand them better. And human design gives you a map with which to do that. So it's like, it gives you all this information about the energy that you give to another, that they receive, and then how it is received by them. And it gives you information as to how you take on energy of other people and the dynamics that creates within you, these pressures that you feel as a result, and all these different ways in which you've been behaving that have actually been misaligned with who you truly are and the highest expression of who you came here to be. So I realize this is like a long-winded answer, but I feel like when we just say human design is your energetic blueprint, it doesn't communicate the power of it enough, because it really is so helpful in so many ways.
Oh, so good. Yes, there are so many layers of this. And I love being able to talk about not only the chakras that are involved with it, the science, the biology. Like, I just think that, especially when it comes to money as well, right, is that most people think it's about money, but it's really about us and how we are operating and understanding ourselves. So really understanding and dissecting all of this is us building our relationship with ourselves, because we're understanding why it is we do what we do instead of judging ourselves for it. And again, building this beautiful relationship. So I personally, I think I know mine, but I'm not sure. But could you give a rundown on all the different types of, I don't even know what to call the categories.
So there are 5 human design types, and the types describe your aura and the way that your aura operates. And your aura is the electromagnetic field that is you and around 6 feet around you in all directions. Just like everything else carries a frequency, so do we. And this frequency communicates with others on this unseen level as well. And we know that already, right? That's why someone comes in the room and makes us feel some type of way without even saying a word. And so your human design type is based on your aura, which is a result of your chart. And there are 5 different ones. And one of the most common is a generator. And generators make up about 35% of the population. And generators are generators because they have this very consistent, reliable access to sacral energy. And the sacral energy in human design is like this buzzing life force, physical, creative, fertile energy. And so generators are really here to follow the guidance of their sacral energy, because it's like their energy activates when something feels exciting to them. When something like their body is like pulling them towards something, they get activated. And then they can immerse themselves in that thing forever until they're exhausted and they fall asleep and they wake up and they do it again. So they have this like battery reserve every day, and they're here to know how to use that energy in the way that is unique to them. Manifesting generators are very similar, but they, in addition to this consistent, reliable sacral energy that they also have consistent energy to like manifest and communicate. So a lot of times manifesting generators, they tend to move quicker than generators. So they have this sustained energy, but then like something might catch their eye and they're immediately going towards it. Whereas a generator might take a little bit more time to shift gears. But generators and manifesting generators together make up 70% of the population. So most of the population has this access to reliable physical energy to do things with their bodies, to work, to do. And the other 30% of the population doesn't. But the generators and manifesting generators, because they're here to follow this sacral guidance, they have these open auras. And the aura is like pulling life. It's like pulling experiences and opportunities and people and just life to them to respond to. So things are always coming in. It's like very magnetic energy. Things are always coming into the field. And then the generators and manifesting generators learn how to connect with their body's response and trust it. Then we have projectors, who are about 20% of the population. And unlike generators and manifesting generators, they don't have as consistent access to this physical energy. And they're really here to experience and see other people on levels that they a lot of times don't even see themselves. And they have these auras that are like lasers, and they just like pierce right. It's like when a projector is looking at you, it's like they're not looking at you, they're looking in you. Like they just see you. And they're really here because of that. They're here to be guides, because they know where you're going. They know where you need to go. They see the potential. They see where the energy is going. And this might be on an individual level, or it might be on a more collective level, where they see where the collective needs to go. And their role is to be a guide in some way toward that thing, toward where we're going. And then we have manifestors, which are about 8 to 9% of the population. Again, they don't have this consistent, reliable sacral energy, but they do have very consistent energy to take action, to do. And manifestors have this unique aura that's very closed and dense and protective, because manifestors have this connection to something that we don't see. And they get these visions, and based on this vision, they'll get like this urge. I call it, like, I'm a manifestor, so I call it like this, it feels like a bolt of lightning. And with it comes this surge of energy to realize that vision, to manifest it to form. So for me, this has happened in a lot of different ways. Like, for instance, my first group coaching program came to me like a bolt of lightning. And I sat there and wrote for like 10 pages, like everything flowed out of me. And then with it came this like energy to create it. But then once that's gone, it's gone. Like I'm exhausted and I need to rest and like do nothing in between. So like maintaining things beyond that isn't really where I shine. And so lastly, we have reflectors, who are only 1% of the population. They are rare gems, and they're very unique, and they have auras that are sampling, because they are very open in that they are constantly absorbing energy from around them, from the people around them, and reflecting it back to them. They're also very connected to the lunar cycle. And because of their connection to the lunar cycle and because they're constantly absorbing energy from everyone around them, they change all the time. They're like chameleons. They kind of take form of whatever is in front of them. They're reflecting that energy back all the time. So they really do feel like these unicorns that are constantly changing and almost like these ethereal beings. And so, yeah, we went through all the 5 types. It's kind of a lot of information, but on the simplest level, we have 5 beautiful types. It's like 5 puzzle pieces all fitting together perfectly, all with their role. And it is the most general part of human design as well. So it's very common that I'm sure people listening right now are like, well, I resonate with all of them, and yes, some of the energies of all of the types live in us, but your type describes this electromagnetic field, how your aura operates. And so it's unseen, and there are a lot of other layers to your chart that are a lot more specific to you.
Oh, it's so good. I feel like we don't have enough time to talk about all of this. So we might have to do a part 2 because this is so key. And I was very curious. Can you guess which one I am? I mean, I think I know that which one I am, but I'm not completely sure.
It's interesting because I definitely, I feel like juicy energy from you where you could be like a generator, but also I feel that you're very attentive and you pay really close attention to every word that comes out of my mouth. So I'm getting projector energy from you too. So yeah, but I'm thinking generator. Am I right?
So I think that I'm manifesting generator.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yes. But I also feel like the second thing of what you said is a skill set that I've been working on. One of the things that I've been working on most consciously, especially with the podcast, is a lot of times when we're communicating or even having a conversation, I always want to say, and this, and that, and this. And it's been such an amazing ability or skill set that I've been able to help try to build is like, again, holding that space and be like even when it's quiet, I think that's why I always say something because I'm like, it makes me feel uncomfortable when nobody's saying anything. Elevators, for example. And I've been learning of like, okay, let's just sit and then watch what comes out. And it's like, so good. So thank you. And from here, right? Seeing all of the different types. What are they called again?
They're just your human design
types. Okay. I'm like, I was going so good with this. I know in one of your previous interviews, you talked about how you could actually apply this to business. So I was curious, what are some of the ways that if somebody either has a business, they've gone through that transition that you've gone through, or even going through it right now, how could they apply this knowledge to their business?
There are infinite ways, but I would say 2 things to start. The first thing, always authority. So your authority is like your decision-making mechanism. So it might be emotional, it might be sacral, it might be splenic, ego, self-projected, whatever. So know your authority and then practice making decisions from your authority because a lot of us outsource our authority. A lot of us look to others to make decisions for us, or we make decisions based on the expectations and projections of others or whatever. And so really getting in touch with your own authority is this beautiful step towards self-trust and toward just remembering who you are. Because once you start to see the kinds of decisions you make, you'll realize that you might be a little bit different than you thought you were. And the other big thing I would say is looking at the centers. So when a center is white or undefined, you are absorbing and amplifying energy from your environment. And because of this, you'll feel like pressure. And depending on which center we're looking at, there are different types of pressure that you'll feel. So for instance, you might have an undefined root center, which is the center that's all the way in the bottom of your chart. If that's white, you have an undefined root center. And so you're constantly under pressure to be doing and rushing around and doing things and like completing your to-do list and putting yourself in stressful situations because you don't know what life is without the stress. So, understanding that about yourself and starting to make decisions based on what feels right versus just trying to get rid of that pressure is huge. And it sounds simple, but it is like such a profound process of homecoming, really, just really understanding who you are at a fundamental level. And I mean, building the self-trust and the confidence that comes from knowing who you are is completely life-altering.
Wow. Could you give an example of somebody who is unconsciously giving away their authority? Or
yeah, we do it all the time. You hire a business coach and you pay them $10,000-$20,000, right? And they give you advice and give you guidance on a certain way to do something. And you do it because you are used to giving your authority away, or because you pay them so much money. And even though it doesn't feel right with you, you feel like they know better. So you do that and it doesn't feel right. So of course it's not successful, because in order for something to be successful, it has to feel right to some degree for you. So, I mean, that's a huge example. And then as far as operating based on pressure, I mean, I see examples of this every single day in the business world. Like, for instance, someone who is undercharging because they feel like they need to prove that they're worthy before they charge what they want to charge. Or someone who's overcharging and under delivering because they have like maybe an inflated sense of self-worth. Or someone who is afraid of having a difficult conversation with a difficult client because they're scared of confrontation, because they're under pressure in their solar plexus to keep the peace, to not rock the boat. There are countless examples of this that I see all the time. And so when you really start to come back to who you are and you build that self-trust and that integrity within yourself, like those situations don't happen anymore, like because you don't give your authority away anymore.
Ah, so good. What if there's somebody, this came up on our call today, if an unexpected bill came out of nowhere, what would be an example with that?
What do you mean? Example of
giving your authority away?
I guess if an unexpected bill came, I'm sorry. I'm kind of confused by what you're asking.
I guess the biggest thing that's been coming up for a lot of people, especially on our calls, is just their perception of, oh no, this is something that I cannot handle, or something that is, again, affecting the way that they see themselves, because they think that, I guess, money is more important, or X, Y, and Z, all of the other things that are happening external are more important than their either mental health or how it is that they feel about themselves.
I mean, really, like whenever anything unexpected happens, there's going to be this period where you're going to feel off balance. And I think an expectation of feeling any other sort of way is kind of silly, especially if you don't have the money to pay that bill. That is a stressful situation. So of course you're going to be off balance, and probably there's going to be a mean girl in your head that says like, oh, you effed up or whatever. But like, the more you build your confidence in yourself and the more you know who you are and the more you trust yourself, it doesn't matter what life throws at you because you trust yourself. You have your own back. You know you'll figure it out. You know you'll always be there for you. So even when stressful situations come up, even when painful things come up, even when, I mean, big life things come up, yes, there's going to be a period where your nervous system is completely dysregulated. And yes, there's going to be a period where you might need to process emotions and, feel. But even through all of that, you just know like, okay, this is part of the process. And I got me. And no matter what I'm feeling right now, I love myself. I completely accept myself just as I am, even through this really stressful situation that maybe a previous version of myself created the situation. But I have love for her and I'm different now and I've got it, you know?
Yes, so beautiful. So, one of the last things I wanted to touch on before we hop off here, and I want to make sure that we have time so that we can talk about how other people can invest more time and energy into learning this from you. On one of the other episodes where you're interviewed, you talked a lot about recharging and really restoring your energy and moving the energy that's in your body. So, what advice would you give for people who have stagnant energy or even trauma in the body and how they can really start to release that?
Move it with intention. Just move with intention. Stop making excuses. I don't have time. I'm too busy. My kids will climb on me. No, you have to make it a priority to move your body because that's how you get in touch with your body. That's how and if you really want to know yourself and be so confident in yourself and take back your own authority and just live just unshakable, you have to be in touch with your body. So, and it doesn't matter how you move your body. If you love to lift weights, great. Like, your body's going to respond to whatever you feel like you love to do. You just have to do something, even if it's walking outside, even if it's just stretching every day and holding the intention, even maybe a visual. Like, for me, I like to actually visualize energy that I've absorbed throughout the day, leaving my body through my sweat. And as I breathe, I imagine that I'm calibrating to whatever version of myself I need to be for the day. I imagine I'm cleansing my entire being so that I can be more receptive to what I really want, to the life I really want to live, So doing those kinds of visualizations and really holding intention when you're moving your body is so incredibly powerful. Like, your body will respond and your mind and emotional body will feel amazing too.
Yes. And you also talked about being alone, the importance of being alone. So, as a mother, how much would you say that you prioritize this right now? And if there's, again, more mothers on here who are saying the same, oh my gosh, I don't have time for myself, what advice would you give to them?
Oh my God, it's so hard. First of all, I just need everyone to feel validated in that it is so hard to have humans attached to you at all times and to feel like you don't even have a body of your own. So I totally understand that feeling so well. And I know that when I was in that situation, because both of my babies were very, 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 very clingy, like I could not put them down. And so that was definitely really hard. And my alone time, a lot of the time, looked like, as soon as he went to sleep, I would go for a walk outside. And even if I only got 15 minutes before he was looking for me again, like I had to have something. And again, with the intention, it's like when you hold the intention and you have the energy of cherishing whatever time you do have, it will help you fill your cup even just a little bit. You know what I mean? And now my daughter is 2.5, my son is 6, and my partner is not working right now, which is like amazing for me, right? Before this, when we were in Hawaii, we had a nanny and she helped with housework. And she also watched my daughter while I was there working. And now, we kind of switch off during the week so that I work and he's with the kids. And sometimes my time is just for me. And I try to just take it whenever I can, wherever I can. And I've definitely had to work through the guilt, that mom guilt that we feel. And sometimes I still have to work through that, but it's definitely worth your time and your energy to work through it, because we all deserve to be at our best. And some of us require a lot of alone time for that. And especially if you're really sensitive to energy, like if you're very empathic, and you're just constantly absorbing everyone else's energy and emotions, like you need to have that time to just empty out and remember who you are without it,
Yes, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And again, vulnerability is so key here. And I want to thank you for giving that validation for the people who are listening and have been feeling the same way, because you never know who needed to hear that at that exact moment. So if that was you, make sure you screenshot this and let Krystal know of how much it meant to you that she shared that. So Krystal, again, I just want to thank you for investing your time, energy, making time for this podcast. This is so key. And now there's all of these beautiful souls who are hearing this right now because you invested time and energy into yourself. So thank you for stepping into your power. I wanted to give you just a couple minutes to talk about all the different ways that if someone is interested in work with you and diving deeper into human design, or even knowing what their human design type is, and what are all the different ways that they can do so.
So first of all, to get your human design, you will want to go to one of the sites. You can literally Google free human design chart, and there will be sites there for you. Just make sure it's not a quiz. Like if they ask you questions about your personality, that's not human design, because I have seen that before. But you have to enter accurate birth information, and yes, that's important. And then it'll generate your chart. Alternatively, you can go to my website. I have a whole human design section of my website where you can click the link to get your chart, and then you'll automatically be emailed a free essential guide to human design. And that's a really great place to start. And then from there, I also have a shop with some digital mini courses and programs. And then I also certify other coaches and service providers, consultants, healers to use human design with their clients and in their business as well through my program, Embodied by Design. And so we are enrolling for our next cohort beginning in August. And yeah, that's what I have right now. Some one-on-one stuff, but you can always DM me on Instagram to ask about my availability for that.
Yay. And what's your Instagram handle?
Krystal E. Woods.
Awesome. So we're going to put all of these links in the show notes for everybody, your Instagram, the freebie that we were just talking about. I also just wanted to point out that I love your website, by the way. It looks so good, especially with the podcast and how it has the blog with it. I was like, ooh, that would be really helpful. So again, thank you so much for investing your time, the energy, and sharing all this information for us. I definitely had the download of maybe even having you speak for something further in the future, if that's in alignment with you, because I would love for our community to dive deeper into human design and know how and why this is so important in the manifestation process. So thank you everybody for listening. Please tag us on Instagram, Manifesting Money Podcast, and Krystal E. Woods, right, on Instagram, and tell us the number one thing that you got out of this.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah. Bye, love.